Well, this may just be the most misunderstood presentation in the bass fishing world, and that's okay. A shaky head is an interesting presentation because of this style of the hook. Anglers feel, or anglers have often been told, that that lure stands upright. And if you're using an Elastec worm, that's absolutely the case. But when you're using a traditional plastic worm, okay, a plastisol worm, that worm does not stand upright. A matter of fact, it does almost just the opposite. Well, when I started filming today, my intent was to really figure out how come a 5-inch finesse worm often catches me more bass on a shaky head than a 7-inch finesse worm. So that was my original intent. But when I started analyzing the footage, okay, after I was finished, it really started to click or dawn on me why this shaky head with a traditional worm is still so effective. When you take a look at it here, even though it is not standing upright, the way this hook is made, okay, it kind of has that bow in it. So even if the hook's laying off to the side or gets caught like this or whatever, you got this little bit of an arch in here. And what's happening is this worm, the 5-inch or the 7-inch, just looks so incredibly like some sort of creature rooting around there on the bottom. As I was filming this, I had bluegills come up and take a look at this. I had little bass come up and just immediately try to eat this thing. And take a look at this turtle here. I didn't even see this when I was filming, but this turtle, if I would have not moved this lure, I believe it was going to go ahead and take a chomp out of this thing as well. So here you've got all these creatures. They're drawn to it by their natural curiosity, and it just looks like something rooting around. Now, depending on your bottom composition of the waters you're fishing, I definitely think that the Elastec is a better way to go, especially if you have some deeper silt, muck, chara, sandgrass, that type of stuff, where the lure can stand up out of the way. But if you have a rocky composition, or let's say a composition much like this one, where it's soft but it's not real thick, the traditional shaky head in the worm has this drawing power to it. Now, I will say, just like with all soft plastics, the less we move it, the more real it looks. When I give this thing too big of a hop, you know, any little fish or bluegills, whatever that around, it just scares them away. But when you just barely twitch the rod or just slightly drag the rod, it just looks so incredibly realistic. Like I said, something rooting around down there in the bottom. And with these worms, I mean, worms have been great bass catching lures for decades, right? But with the shaky head presentation, as opposed to a Texas rig, where you've got a Texas rig, it's just laying completely flat on the bottom, when you've got that little bit of an arch in there and it helps stand it up a little bit, it just adds another dimension of a lifelike quality. And hey, if you would want to watch a video about the characteristics of each type of fishing line and what type of lures and presentations they are best suited for, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.